Yo guys, what is going on? Welcome back once again to some more Pokemon TCG content. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 Pokemon decks for the Pokemon TCG. We are losing, for those that don't know, Primal Clash, Ancient Origins, Roaring Skies, and Double Crisis. There are some key cards in those sets that include Shaman, Via Seeker, and so on. And although, once again, like I said, we don't know what the meta is going to be like, since the addition of Sun and Moon sets, the format has slowed down and we have a better idea of what it's going to be like after rotation. I'm probably going to be uploading this like the day of rotation or maybe the day before. So we'll see how these predictions, I guess, work out. I'm sure most of us can kind of wind down our own top 5 as well. But before we get into my top 5 list, guys, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Tabletop Village. Right now, they're doing a little promotion for their repacks. If that's something that potentially interests you, link is down below. They've been great to the channel and hopefully in the future as well. Alright guys, let's get into our honorable mentions. First off, I do want to mention Greninja Break. I think a lot of people are considering Greninja dead, and Greninja's never going to die. It's going to have its inherent problems of inconsistency and just bricking and dead drawing, but as long as you have the Greninja pieces, Greninja will find a way to make it work. The fact that it doesn't have to heavily rely on Lele also makes it very appealing to newer players as well. Personally, I found a lot of success with 4 Brooklet Hills and variations of Evo Soda, Timer Ball, Rescue Stretcher, and with the addition of Guzma, you could easily play Octillery in there as well to give you a little bit of more draw support. And Greninja Break is such an inherently strong ability, and they have access to Shadow Stitching, which is one of the only ways to really shut down abilities after rotation. With the loss of Hex Maniac, there is Garbodor, but you know, Greninja ain't gonna play Garb. Also, the fact that Grass takes a pretty big hit makes the fact that the Greninja meta looks real good. Greninja has matchups against, or good matchups against Guardy, Metagross, and Volcanion. So keep an eye out for Greninja, guys, but that is our first honorable mention. Alright, next up we have Decidueye Ninetales. I know. Give me a second. People are writing off Decidueye as well. The loss of Forest is huge. You just can't get the super dominant board state turn 1. You can't Ace Arola and just slap it all down right away. But Decidueye, guys, is one of the best Pokemon at abusing Espeon EX. Espeon EX allows you to de-evolve your opponent's Pokemon, and if you have damage on their basics, let's say you have 60 damage on a Ralts, you can just unevolve their Guardy, knock out their Ralts. You only take 1 prize, keep that in mind, guys, but you can control the board state so well. And the fact that Feather Arrow is just so dominant late game puts Decidueye on the map. Your early game is going to be rough. I think we all can understand that. But if you can build up your Decidueyes, if you're using Ninetales as well, you even have the options of the non-GX Alolan Ninetales too, which some decks just don't have an answer for. Speaking of Alolan Ninetales, next up we have Alolan Ninetales GX. Alolan Ninetales GX overall is a pretty solid deck here that can hit big numbers with choice bands. It has access to attacks like Ice Blade that can snipe. It has a very powerful GX attack. It does take a loss in Rough Seas, which I think is actually a pretty big deal, but it can utilize Octillery very well. It can utilize Tapu Koko promo very well, and the fact that you have 3 different attacks to choose from, and Aqua Patch lets Alolan Ninetales stick. And then of course the addition of, once again, the non-GX Alolan Ninetales just can cause so many issues to people that are not ready for it. Alright guys, at number 5 I have Vikavolt Bulu. I've never been a huge fan of Vikabulu. It's not personally my style of play, but it is extremely consistent, and I think that's going to be one of the big selling points to it early in the season, when people don't know what's going on, like, oh, my Via Seekers are gone, I have my Ends and my Sycamores, my Ultra Balls, but if I don't draw into those, how do I get cards? That's where Vikabulu is going to shine, because Vikabulu does the same thing every single game. You want to get your turn 2 Vikavolt out, and after that, let's go attach all our energy, you know, moderately. You want to be smart about your attachments. But after you get your Vikavolt out, the deck is somewhat autopilot, and that allows you just to straight up win games based off 100% consistency, and you can hit 180 pretty easily. You have a solid GX attack, you have a non-GX attacker, you can use your Tapu Koko promo, And you have a decent matchup of Guardy, I guess, because you can discard your energy as well. You do take a big hit to things like Metagross, but we'll see if Vikabulu can just straight up win games off consistency, especially early in the season. So that's why I have slated it here at option number 5, or list number 5. At number 4, I have Metagross. After its first initial surprise appearance, it hasn't had like the biggest impact, but it is still a very strong deck. And when Metagross sets up, when you stare down 2 or 3 Metagrosses, it's almost like impossible to take them down. The fact that Flareon is gone now after rotation and Hexmaniac is gone allows Metagross to face less threats. You know, you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I gotta worry about this Flareon. Oh no, I'm gonna get Hex next turn. Let's play it around Hex. You don't have to worry about that so much. Of course, there is Garbotoxin Garb that you have to keep an eye out for, but Metagross has a very strong matchup against Guardy, as you can one-shot them. You do want to avoid some Volk, so you have some good and some bad matchups, but I think the fact that Hex, Flareon is gone, and you have a good matchup against Guardy is going to be enough to slate Metagross as a very good option in this upcoming season. At number 3, I have slated Volcanion. I was pretty close to putting it at number 2, but the fact that it didn't have like the best world showing, I kind of just bumped it down a little bit. Volcanion is super strong. It has changed a lot. You know, you guys remember the Hoopa engine Skyfield? And now it's more of a slower paced Brooklet Hill. I'm going to set up my board. I'm going to use the right attackers in the right scenario. And I feel like Volcanion is a deck that just keeps getting better, right? They add Turtonator, they add Ho-Oh, they add Kiawe. Like, it's crazy. They just keep adding more tools to Volcanion. And I think once Volcanion figures out how to deal with this Guardy matchup, it is a huge contender to be one of the best decks in the format. At number 2, I have slated Garb variants. I want to say right off the bat that Garb does take a pretty big hit when rotation happens, because nobody's gonna have VS Seekers anymore. That's gonna be 4 less items that could potentially be in the discard pile. And if people are still worried about Garb, that becomes even more problematic, because they'll have less and less and less items in their discard piles. But the fact that Garb is such an inherently strong card, it deserves to be number 2 on this list, especially how well it did at Worlds. And it can have a lot of different partners. We saw Espeon Garb, Drampa Garb, Golisopod Garb. I think Espeon Garb does take a pretty big hit. We'll see if it can survive with Drampa Potown, but also Golisopod Garb is going to be something that I think a lot of people play, because it was like a surprise deck. Oh my gosh, this is cool, this is new, this is something else. I do think there's trouble with cycling your Acerolas and your Guzmas without VS Seeker. That's a lot more difficult to do. But Garbotoxin's strong, Garb is strong, Golisopod's strong, and the fact that, our boy Gozy, he takes lives. And of course, at number 1, we have Gardevoir GX. It's no real surprise. I feel like, honestly, all these decks that I mentioned are all kind of just like, pick one of them and hit good matchups, know your deck really well, and win. But Gardevoir is such a good Pokemon. It has a great ability, a great attack, and a solid GX attack as well that can deal with one massive threat, that is Garbodor. Gardevoir, of course, as you guys saw, won Worlds. It has access to cards like Gallade. It can spam its energy all right away. It doesn't have to worry about getting hexed anymore either, so that's one less threat for Guardy to have to worry about. And we're still kind of figuring out Gardevoir. Like, there's still the debate, Vulpix, DNC, let's put 2 in one deck, People are still figuring out, hey, maybe we can put these cards in Guardy. Maybe we'll play Max Potions for the mirror. There's still a lot about Guardy that we're all figuring out. But overall, the card's extremely powerful. I think we can all agree on that. The fact that it won Worlds, I can't really slide it any lower than number 1. And guys, that'll pretty much wrap up this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button. I know it took me out way longer than I would have liked to upload this for you guys, but let me know if I'm missing anything. Maybe you think Darkrai is really good. I played it for 2 days, 3 days, guys. Don't invest in Darkrai's. For standard, at least. Expanded, it's a completely different story. All right, get on track, Dennis. Thank you guys again for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Check out our sponsors over at Tabletop Village. That'll be it. Good luck next rotation, guys, with your deck building and everything. Go edit your decks on TCG. Spend like hours and hours getting those VS Seekers out of there, and that'll be it. Bye bye.